Sukuk is a strategic Islamic finance instrument that has catalyzed socio-economic development across the globe. According to Refinitiv's Sustainable Islamic Finance Monitor, ESG Sukuk issuances in the first half of 2021 reached $4 billion. Good morning, welcome to another episode of Islamic Finance Weekly, where we capture the activities in the non-interest finance market. Before we start this conversation, we'll go on a short break. Please stay with us.
Islamic finance has been misunderstood by many to be a religious product aimed at only Muslims. But that is not the case. Since the 2008 global financial crisis, Islamic finance has become an attractive segment of the financial market, promoting sustainable development and economic empowerment. Join me every Friday on the Islamic Finance Weekly at 11 a.m. West African time as we discuss Connect the Globe on Islamic finance and its benefits. It features experts, scholars, analysts, policymakers and regulators who provide insight on the capital market, banking, personal finance, Islamic insurance, financial literacy, waqf, halal, and all other aspects of finance and the economy. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back. Today we will discuss promoting Sukuk for green and brownfield projects, a presentation and interview with Chinua Azubike, the CEO of InfraCredit Nigeria. Looking at the prospect for deepening Sukuk adoption for infrastructure renewal and development in Nigeria, Chinua Azubike provided insight on the Sukuk instrument, infrastructure projects, and sustainable finance in the economy.
I think the more the market looks at Sukuk as an instrument by which you have transparency in use of proceeds, discipline in the way projects are structured, and sustainability because it ties financing. Then we take it from a niche instrument to a mainstream instrument. I think that's one very important point. So when we demystify this concept of Sukuk as being some niche, but that's very critical, right? Because there's no reason why all of the instruments we have guaranteed to date couldn't have been Sukuk instruments rather than corporate funds. And I think it goes back to the fundamental question, which is the question the chair had highlighted, which is around good projects and how we need to look at the fundamental constraints that is affecting why we don't have sufficient domestic credit to the private sector or infrastructure. It's the same challenge that would affect any other instruments that is meant to play the same role of intermediating funds. So the Sukuk is struggling from a combination of constraints beyond just as product acceptance, which really comes with really demystifying what it is. But actually the fundamental underlying challenge, which is we need more well-structured projects to come to market. And as an infrastructure financier, we also struggle with this constraint that we spend a couple of our time looking at the entire life cycle for a project. I think one thing important that has been highlighted by my colleagues is a project goes through a life cycle. It starts from concept to preparation, right, to development, then construction, before it operates. So when you see an operating project, you have to recognize that it's going through a life cycle. And that early stage development is very critical phase in ensuring that you have value for the projects. And when we miss that point, looking at the constraints that we're facing, and to a large extent, it's also part of the reason why there aren't enough projects coming to market. And we spent some of our time talking with experts in the sector, trying to design financing structures and also looking at how some nationals can shift financing of their balance sheets to corporate, project finance instruments. Because it's also, a very viable way of ensuring projects are more structured with the right type of contractual and stable cash flows that can support the needs type structure. And I think the lease model is actually a very attractive way of financing assets. We looked at it within the bulk of multiple types of asset classes that even can be aggregated. One of the big challenges is how small is the project versus the amount of financing investors want to put. So a typical institutional investor would want a project of the size of maybe 10 million on average. But when you look at the tickets of projects that are available, they may be 2 billion, 1 billion. So there's also the question around aggregation. And you could look at it from the context of we could identify a couple of, so we looked at projects like solar mini grids. Like solar mini grids are providing essential services to communities. And if they establish a sustainable business model where people are willing and able to pay, then they could be aggregated. You could separate the assets from the operations and release, and it could be financed and sealed up. So in looking at that early stage, it's really now committing resources towards, again, one, trying to simplify the product design so it's not complicated. I think it's important to make it less complex and simple, but also in terms of the actual underlying assets. Also, we believe that there needs to be more coordination in terms of looking at the type of projects and actually structuring the project at the early stage to qualify for financing. And we were learning, so making sure that the type of sectors that are attractive for this sort of financing are developed, and the projects are also well structured for reception. So the stakeholders in this industry now look to institutions like IDB and other similar institutions need to commit more technical assistance. And these technical assistance come in the form of preparatory grant support that can help to develop projects. We need a lot more of that type of capital, especially when you want to stimulate a market that is nascent and needs to be catalyzed and scaled. So this kind of funding will help to work with developers in terms of making sure that the right type of business models, financial models are put in place. That the environmental, social, and governance framework is also acceptable because, given the ethical and sustainability element involved, is to ensure that it's socially and environmentally aligned.
In an interview session, Chinua Azubike speaks on how to unlock Sukuk as an instrument for financing infrastructure projects.
So the theme is really around, how do you unlock Sukuk as an instrument for financing projects, so the topic sort of personalizes it, like, for my project, how do I use Sukuk to access finance for my project? And so when we look at it, from sort of the concept to practice, what are we sort of facing in the country? The question really is, and in my session was around what are the impediments that are constraining Sukuk as a financing instrument from mobilizing more capital for good projects.
He articulated the role of Islamic finance in bridging Africa's infrastructure deficit. He believes Sukuk is the right instrument that can achieve development as it allows one to be disciplined and focus on the underlying asset class that generates cash and to ensure that the structure is viable and sustainable.
When we look at it within the context of the current phase of development of and COP26 climate change and sustainability, we now begin to ask ourselves, one is Africa, given the population and the deficit for infrastructure in Africa that is quite significant. And when you look at it within the context of Nigeria, where we operate today, which has in itself estimated $100 billion per annum need for financing infrastructure. I think ultimately, if you think about it, capital, they say capital knows no fatherland. Capital goes where it's most, where the environment is more rewarding for it to go to. And as an instrument, I think, when we look at why is Sukuk, or how can Sukuk become a mainstream form of financing from being a niche product. So it's a niche market, and I think maybe the actors need to also rethink, right? It's not a club. It shouldn't be seen as a club. It shouldn't be seen as a unique, complex product. When you think about even disruptive innovation, when you think about how to unlock more accessibility of any service or product, you have to keep it simple or make it simple, or that helps to demystify it. So one of the roles I think the development partners need to play is helping to support early stage project development and also early stage project structuring. Some of these costs, right, appear to also be impediments. So for a borrower or a financier, when you go through, maybe the cost of issue and the process, the time it will take you, that could be a discouraging factor versus maybe what you consider a conventional means of financing. So we need to look into that. Is it a longer process to issue a Sukuk than the conventional financing? How do you shorten that process and make it compete with the conventional financing? Because whilst we recognize that Sukuk is actually an ethical product, irrespective of the religion, so let's put the religion to one side, but that really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. It's really the fact that it enables more sustainable finance, ethical finance, it brings in ESG principles, which is what we need in a country that is, country with the highest energy deficit in the world. About 83 million people don't have access to energy in Nigeria. We also have the highest poverty rate in the world. So when we talk about financing, we need to look at it from the context of how is this financing having development impact ultimately. And Sukuk is the right type of instrument that achieves that objective because it allows you to be disciplined and focused on the underlying asset class. There must be an underlying asset that is generating cash flows. So that's the first level of discipline. You just don't pack anything to finance with a Sukuk instrument. And also, you also need to ensure that the structure is viable and sustainable.
Speaking further on how Sukuk should be used to fund the healthcare system in Nigeria, the CEO added that the aim of InfraCredit is to diversify Sukuk as a more inclusive product, not only based on real estate and infrastructure, but other essential social projects.
For us, and I'll tell you, we have projects with our pipelines that approach InfraCredit. So we provide guarantees. We guarantee infrastructure financing. So we guarantee developers projects to raise financing from the capital markets, and we attract pension funds as a result of our guarantee. So at the end of the day, we are actually agnostic to whether it's a Sukuk or a bond. What we really want is to get a borrower access to affordable finance, at the most efficient cost and time. And therefore, we now begin to pay attention to what is the advantage, the competitive advantage of a Sukuk instrument. So we have projects across, energy access, and these are companies that are providing, power to underserved and unserved. We have company building telephony networks in rural areas, but they're actually generating cash flows. We have a company that is providing, access to, cold storage for agricultural products. And the post-harvest losses is about 30 to 40% in Nigeria. It's a significant amount of deficit. But this company provides this service. Now, these could be structured as Sukuk instruments, right? But it takes a bit of work to do that, right? Because one is you look at scale, you look at size, and then the time and effort that it takes to do it. So there must be some level of commitment as well, right? So commitment to do something different, but also with a clear line of sight as to how do we transition from, again, I keep saying, from a niche to a mainstream. We need to simplify it as much as possible. And simplification means really the cost and the time that it takes to issue the instrument. I think to the extent that these things are fairly addressed, then it becomes more easy. And we already believe that it should be. In fact, for us, it's like financing should not be distinguished between Sukuk or mainstream. It's a means of financing. And just the same way we're trying to unlock green bonds as a means of financing, Sukuk shouldn't be any different. Sukuk should be sustainable finance. Sukuk should be climate infrastructure finance. because it actually enables those type of more sustainable environmental, social financing type of projects to happen in a more sustainable way. So we're working on a couple of initiatives, and we've been talking to a couple of advisors towards developing products. So we've done a few products so far, and then we've identified pipelines of projects, and then we're now trying to get those products with the projects towards one or two pilot or initial transactions that we could get to market. My aim is hopefully maybe, how do we diversify Sukuk as a more inclusive product? It's not focused just on real estate or road infrastructure. How do we get it to finance other forms of infrastructure that are essential? Absolutely.
He also gave his projection for the non-interest finance market in 2022 and what the industry needs to do to see more growth.
The outlook would be more of, there's a deficit for financing. The pension funds is about 12 trillion, there's a new fund 6, and they can invest, significant amount of their capital in assets. Therefore, it's now about how are the actors organizing themselves. Because this requires a combination of, levers that actors that need to work in a coordinated way. So to the extent that the actors within the industry, which are the advisors and, the Sharia board and all of those intermediaries, can organize and coordinate, I think we will see a lot more happening. Yes.
Since 2017, Nigeria, through the Debt Management Office, has issued over 3 Sukuk instruments and raised over 350 billion naira tied to infrastructure development in the country. Recently, the DMO issued 4th Sukuk for a tenure of 10 years at a rental rate of 12.8% per annum. It is valued at about 250 billion naira, but is still tied to infrastructure projects, including road rehabilitation. While the impact of Sukuk is far-reaching in the country through roads and bridges, the time has come for Nigeria to move beyond infrastructure-tied Sukuk to other critical sectors like education, healthcare, housing, and sustainable environmental-based projects. This will also help in driving inclusive economic growth for Nigeria through the Sukuk instrument. And that brings us to the end of today's session. For more updates on Islamic finance, visit www.prosheng.com. Also, follow us on our social media platform displaying on the screen. This is wishing all our viewers season greetings and a prosperous new year in advance. Many thanks for watching. See you next Friday for another episode.